welcome to another episode of Berates podcast. Today we'll be talking about a special subject of mine, one of my favourite anime and manga, one of the most culturally significant pieces of media of all time, and a massive influence on every shonen anime and manga that came out after 1985. I am of course talking about the one and only JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I think what draws the attention, what makes JoJo's Bizarre Adventure so popular, is everything about it. I know that's like a signification of what something is, but when it comes down to it, there are flaws in any anime and manga, but with JoJo's, it just decreases over time. Like if you compare part 1 to part 7 or to part 8, there are less and less mistakes and faults that you can come up with. Part 7 is seen as one of the best manga. I think it's top 2 on my anime list. And I think you can't really say that for other long-running series. We'll take, comparison like One Piece, for example. That is, I think, in many people's opinion, the current Wano arc is lacking, and One Piece has been lacking. And that comparing pre-time to get to the new world, there's a major difference. And I think what JoJo's has done so greatly, and I think one of the only manga to do this, is able to keep up a long running series and to keep it fresh and still influential in the manga and anime world. When talking about favourite parts, it's kind of a hard decision because there's so much I like about each part. There's 2 obvious candidates we can rule out, which is part 1 and part 6. Those are probably 2 flaws. Original Araki, very stereotypical of what part 1 was, but that was just at the word of the time. And part 6 was out there and original, and I think it was a big swing and a miss. He went for the final ball 6 over Cow Corner, but it just didn't work for him. And I think you have to have Araki has to have the balls after 20 years of still keeping something fresh, like Stone Ocean, like trying to do new original stuff that might not work, but still going at it and not falling back to more stereotypical shonen traits. And that's why part 7 is such a great achievement, because it's his best work. And I think I've just said what my favorite part was. It's his best work, globally critically acclaimed, and probably the most popular in all manga readers. And to be able to come off it from such a not that well received art part, but still a great part in itself, I think is one that few creators can do. But I think what stands out with a lot of parts is it kind of comes to individuality. It comes to 2 things. It comes down to the characters and the fights, and I think those are the 2 main attributes you have to look in a battle series manga. So for part 2, it had some great fights and great characters, like Joseph Joestar is probably my favourite character in all JoJo's. I think the sort of chemistry he had with Caesar, and the way that the part 2 was the start of Araki's technical fights, as we see in Joseph's fights with both AC/DC and Wamo, how they each were trying to outwit the other opponent, and we saw the mechanics of each fight quite clearly. And part 2 does have that, sort of failing at the final hurdle because of that, end of, world scenario that Cards created. But I think when you look at part 2, it's both a great read and a great watch because of the characters and the fights created, with some great memorable moments in this series, from I think one of the most famous deaths in all anime and manga of Caesar's death, to some great comedic moments and running gags of Joseph Joestar infuriating his opponents by predicting their moves. And I think that's what makes part 2 such great. Part 3 is probably the most influential part, as it is the most popular and most culturally recognised as sort of the turning point for the series, and that is mainly due to the introduction of stands. I think the introduction of stands is probably the greatest thing to happen to shonen manga and anime, I think, ever. I think that's where the turning point where from, fighting battles were not just about, spirit bombs and outmuscling each other, but it came to true technical prowess and, battles of the mind rather than the body. But, part 3 is still, who's the most powerful opponents, but, part 3 is where we truly see where it starts to show the sort of technical battles and psychological battles that will, influence so many other manga out there. So, the best example from part 3 would be Jojo Rakujo versus Darby the Older. I think just having from that point before then, it all been, a literal fight, fist flying, bruises, scratches and blood bleeding. But when it came home to the Darby fight, adding the sort of element of poker and, it being not about physical but of mind and bluffing made some great moments in the story. And I think that's where Araki really thrives, is able to create these situations of psychological battles which, both the characters and the reader struggle to see a way out of. Part 3 also has probably my favourite chapter of JoJo's, and it's not as many would expect. It's called The Man Who Shot Dio, and in the manga it came before the Darby the Older fight, but the anime came in the Horse and Ongo Bongo episodes. But I think that both are great instances because it just creates so much hype and mysterious around Dio's character, which is quite amazing since we've already been introduced and fleshed out with him in part 1. But I think what The Man Who Shot Dio does is truly instill the fear that these characters have on facing an opponent like Dio. I think just some hints towards his power, but also his silhouette figure just roaming the halls and libraries of his mansion really, show how much of a threat Dio is. The characters are also great and memorable. I think that scene with how the most popular character of all time, and maybe manga and anime as a whole, could be argued, is Jojo Rakujo. I think Super Eye Patch Morph does some amazing videos on JoJo's Bizarre Adventure on each part, showing their flaws and their greatnesses, and he does a great bit about Jojo, as he is seen as part of an era, as he is seen as the delinquent, and you could tell his personality and actions just through his silhouette or body and clothes. And I think that's a great example of what Araki does best, as you can clearly determine what just through character design. And I think Araki is probably the best at character design on what a person is, what is his motives, and what kind of emotion you feel from getting. And you see this from Jojo Rakujo to his stoic personality, from his ripped hat blending into his hair, to his massive gold chain, his unbuttoned coat, but you can also see his, calm, kind of, in control nature by having those two belts. And compare this to also Yoshikage Kira, who differs in both manga and anime, because manga, he's this, handsome man with this just devilish stare. You feel when you're introduced to him, you can't just quite pinpoint why this man just gives you the chills, and then it's seen later. But just able to instill these specific motions that will enhance your experience. I think that's what Rocky does best. I think that's what Part 3 does quite well and stuff. We get connected emotionally to these characters and through the deaths, which I have to say JoJo's Bizarre Adventure probably does but deaths the best. We can truly see what makes Rocky such a good artist and writer. I think what part 4 does is the sense of fuck me, I can't talk by myself. There's a point in your life where you just, what JoJo's did for me is it gave me hope. It was just some fantastic feeling of just watching a bizarre adventure, something that was so out there, something that you just hadn't seen before, and that's what makes JoJo so great. You will not experience a sensation like when you're watching JoJo's. I think what it comes down to is that I just can't do it. I'm thinking that I love reading JoJo's, I love watching JoJo's. I constantly watch the battles. It's just what makes it so good. It's so rewatchable. Rewatching Part 5, and that's just an amazing experience. Just seeing how these characters grow, all these nuances that come with JoJo. And you just don't get that with other media, such as JoJo's. When I look at it, I think that I'm tired. There's just a point in my life and I just stuck. I just look myself in the mirror and I just think. I look at the horizon. I'm on the bus. I look. I just need a distraction, but I just can't. There's nothing. I think. I just can't deal with it. But that's what makes anime and manga and JoJo so great. It's just, it gives me a distraction that I desperately need. I think too much. I think about a lot, and that's depressing. I think I need someone to take it out of my hands and just say, here, watch this. Here, devote this X amount of time to this. It just gives me some sort of distraction, which I really truly need. And when watching JoJo's, it just takes my mind off something. I can truly enjoy something that I could never think of. Any other anime or manga, I can think of the scenarios, I can think about the outcome. But with JoJo's, it's just one twist after another. Character developments, characters you didn't expect to be so great, to be implanted into your mind that I would not predict. And that's why I love JoJo so much. It's just that feeling that it's unique. It is truly bizarre. I think we need to talk about my famous catchphrase of Yoshikage Kira is better than graphic. As mentioned before, Yoshikage Kira is truly unique in the sense of, in the anime, manga, TV and film, whatever. He is the best for them. He is unique. He is bizarre. I think what makes him so great is the Iraqi's nuances, his tales, his slight subtleties that make a character different. With Yoshikage Kira, it's his thinking, it's his look that he has, that he's always wanting, that he's always 4 steps ahead of you, that he's planned out everything, that nothing can possibly go wrong. Everything will go his way because he is controlling the board. He is planned. He is strict. He is just looming over you as a silent figure who you can never truly see. He's the figure in the corner of your eye who you just can't pinpoint. He's a man who's always sitting 2 rows behind you on the train, a man who's just there, who has barely any presence, but yet you have this just feeling, this just chill, this shiver, this itch that something's wrong, that something's out of place, and that is Yoshikage Kira. I think what part 4 does so great is allowing Yoshikage Kira just to be a person, a man, someone who's just easily lost in a crowd. Literally, as in the case when, he hides himself as a new man and the Mario 5 cannot find him, or, just figuratively as a man who blends in, purposely coming third in all his competitions, purposely getting, average, just slightly above average, academic skills, just a man who is there. And when you truly see, it's scary just to think about a guy who's just there, who's just looming over you, who you just haven't given a second thought of you, is up to something as just disturbing as Yoshikage Kira truly makes you think about, truly makes you on edge every time you're out in public, because you look at everyone, they all look just like nothing, average. But when you think of someone like Yoshikage Kira, you think any one of these people could be Yoshikage Kira. And I think the sort of character that Yoshikage Kira is, we don't get a backstory, we don't get any justification. There is no justification like, my father died because of this. He's just a man who was inspired, who just had an epiphany when he was younger that this is who he is, a fetish, just a point in life that was natural to anyone in this world that leads them down to a path. There is no unnatural event, just a man looking at a book, inspired by painting, by its beauty, by the hands. It could happen to any of us. It's happened to any of us, that there's just one point in your life which has just changed what path you lead, which has inspired us to all these things. And that's what Yoshikage is us, really. There is few and far between. There is not many differences between us and Yoshikage Kira, except for, all the murdering and hand fetish and, constant OCD. But, and that's what truly makes Yoshikage Kira better than Griffith is. Griffith is this out of this life, larger than life character who, is a man who says he can justify all his, gruesome deeds because of events that's happened to his life, the sacrifices he's made, killing of these people, all for the greater good. But Yoshikage Kira is not that man. He is not an end of the world, being. He's just a man in a small suburban town wanting to live a quiet life. Now we go on to part 5, and I think what part 5 goes back to the sort of nature that part 3 was, and that is that sort of road trip structure. And it has their pros and cons, and I think both part 3 and part 5 kind of fall to the same sort of hurdles. That having this week by week sort of nature, that week by week feeling allows us not to truly inspire us or truly be connected like we were with Yoshikage Kira. But I think what part 5 does great is setting up the main what part 5 didn't, and that's what give Bucciarati's gang more character and more depth than the Stardust Crusaders. And I think part 5 probably has my second favourite fight in the series. I think that was it was just so greatly shown in the anime of Risotto versus Doppio, whatever the fuck you want, Vinegar guy. I think it was truly came down to the essence of a psychological battle, that being able to predict someone's abilities to someone's nature, the character, to their outcomes and actions. I think that's what made Risotto and Doppio's fight so great. That these weren't even the two main characters. At that point, we didn't even know Doppio was, Diavolo. These were just two side characters having a fight. Two characters who had just been recently introduced fighting. And this was, hadn't been seen in JoJo so far, and on any manga since. These two side characters who had just been introduced, a couple of chapters before, having a full fleshed out 10 chapter 3 episode fight. And I think that's what made JoJo so great, is that we're able to be invested in all these characters, all these fights that other manga and anime couldn't do. I think part 5, I can't go on, I'm tired. I think what part 5 does great is that you connect to the characters. I don't like Jono as much, but I like the trash, like Abakio, and I definitely think the stands are very better. They were much better than they were in part 4. Something like Purple Haze, similar to how the hand was his ultimate stand, and Purple Haze was his ultimate stand. I think that's what makes it great. And I think I only talk about the anime because manga is what it is. I don't know many people who read onto the manga of JoJo's, and I think this will be a shorter episode of Badger Podcast because I'm tired and I think I just need to relax. I'm gonna work on a script for Welcome to the HK. So I'm gonna make a new. It's gonna be an intro. So new intro. So if there's anything you want me to talk about, just let me know. But thanks for watching. I'm sorry this is a short episode. I'm just quite tired, a bit frustrated because of this coronavirus. I was gonna make a Purple Haze joke, but I forgot about it. Now my entry to uni is up to fucking predicted grades and past 7. It's all on my hands now. So thumbs up to that. Well, thanks for watching. Hope you guys keep safe. Do all your best to keep healthy, and remember that Yoshikage Akira is better than Griffith.